Hey everyone! You won't believe what just happened to me. My parents used my credit card to buy a car and a bike, and then left me with only $5. I actually laughed when I saw the bank alert, but there's a twist you won't see coming. If you want to hear more, hit that like button and drop a comment below, and don't subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just kidding, but seriously share your thoughts. My name is Jessica, and I am 33 years old. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood called Maplewood Glen Estates. All my life I was taught to be kind, but I never expected kindness to cost me so much. I remember when I turned 18, my parents opened a small joint checking account for me, and they gave me my first credit card. I was so proud. They said it was to help me learn responsibility. For years, I paid each bill on time. I even let them use the card once or twice for groceries when I had extra room in my budget. I thought I was helping. Last week, my phone buzzed just after dinner. An alert from the bank said, "Purchase approved." Amount, $30,000. I sat straight up. $30,000 for a car? Then another one. Purchase approved. Amount, $1,200. A brand new electric bike? My heart pounded. Who would charge that much? And why did they use my card? I rushed to my laptop and logged into my banking app. There it was, clear as day. 2 charges, one for $30,000 at Riverside Motors and one for $1,200 at Fast Wheels Bike Shop. Then the balance. My available credit was only $5. I stared at the screen and then burst out laughing. Not because it was funny yet, but because I was in total shock. My mind raced. My parents never told me they wanted a new car or a bike. I could hear them in the next room watching TV, probably thinking everything was fine. I took a deep breath and marched down the hall. I pushed open the door to the living room. "Mom? Dad?" I called softly. They looked up. My mother turned the volume down. "Jessica, is everything okay?" I held up my phone, opened the banking alert again, and showed it to them. My mother's eyes widened. My father's face went pale. "Oh, honey," my mother said. "We thought you wouldn't mind. We figured you had enough credit." I felt a lump in my throat. I had earned that credit. I had worked hard, and they just treated it like free money. I swallowed hard. "Enough credit?" I whispered. "You used my card to buy a $30,000 car?" My father cleared his throat. "Your mom found a deal. We meant to tell you. It was all paid back quickly." "Paid back?" I laughed bitterly. "My available balance is $5 now." I held up my phone like a trophy. $5. My mother tried to step forward. "We'll pay you back, Jessie. Don't be upset." "Jessie." I shook my head. "I'm Jessica, and you didn't ask. That's the problem." My father sighed and looked away. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I wanted to feel sorry for them, but I felt angry instead. That night, I lay awake in bed. The moonlight spilled across my room. I thought about the last 30 years, how I saved for college, how I paid off little debts, how I trusted my parents. Then I remembered something my grandmother once said. Kindness isn't a free pass to take what isn't yours. A plan began to form. My parents had misused my kindness and trust. They broke a rule, and every wrong deserves its day. I rolled over, took out my notebook, and began to write ideas. But I also knew one thing. I wouldn't let them off the hook with a simple apology or a promise to pay me back. They needed to learn. The next morning, I put on my best smile at breakfast. My father poured orange juice. My mother buttered pancakes. I said good morning like nothing had happened. "Morning," I chirped. "Looks like a sunny day." They nodded, not meeting my eyes. I watched them. They looked uneasy, like kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar. I sipped my coffee and thought about my plan. It had to be fair. It had to be creative. And it had to teach a lesson. After work, I went out to the garage. There, gleaming under the single bulb, was the car they bought. A dark blue sedan, spotless and shiny. Next to it, the electric bike, its tires still warm. I touched the car's hood and felt a thrill. This was the start of payback. I texted my best friend, Lauren, just one word: help. Lauren knew how to keep secrets. She arrived in 10 minutes. We stood behind the bike and car, whispering. I told her my idea: to swap the plates and leave them a note. Maybe I'd turn the bike's battery so it wouldn't charge. Maybe I'd call them every time they tried to start the car with a fake voice. The possibilities seemed endless. Lauren grinned. This is going to be so much fun. She pulled out her phone to record. I laughed for real this time. Wait until they try to drive off, and the car honks "Happy Birthday" every time they turn the key. We spent the afternoon setting little traps. I swapped license plates with my old college car, an old hatchback my parents hated. Then I reprogrammed the key fob so it only unlocked the passenger door. I left a sticky note under the driver's seat that read, "Nice try," in big letters. I rigged the bike bell to play a silly tune on full volume, perfect for public embarrassment. That evening, I called my parents downstairs. "Dinner's ready," I announced. They came in, eyes flicking to the garage. I could tell they were wondering if I'd gone quiet on the subject, but I acted normal. I set plates on the table, and we ate like a family. I asked about their day. My mother talked about a gardening project. My father mentioned a meeting at work. I smiled and nodded, all the while picturing them discovering my little surprises. After dinner, my parents got the mail. I saw them walk past the garage. Then the silence. I went back to the kitchen to clean up. A few minutes later, I heard a loud honk, followed by a shriek. I dashed to the doorway and gasped. My father was standing by the driver door of the new car, pressing the button. And suddenly, the car belted out, "Happy Birthday to You" at full blast. My mother jumped back as the song echoed through the quiet street. They looked around, bewildered. My father pressed the button again. The music stopped. He tried another key fob. The passenger door unlocked. He cursed under his breath. My mother peered inside and saw the sticky note. She read it aloud, "Nice try." Just then, a group of neighbors walked by, staring and laughing. My parents turned bright red. I stepped out, holding a plate of cookies. "Surprise," I said sweetly. They both stared at me, mouths open. My father's face was a mix of anger and awe. My mother's eyes filled with tears again. I smiled. "You too earned this. Consider it a small lesson in asking before taking." My mother wiped her eyes. You're very creative, Jess." I shrugged. "All in good fun. And by the way, you still owe me $30,000 and $1,200. My father swallowed hard. We know. We'll pay you back." I nodded. "I hope so." Then I turned and walked back inside, leaving them by their honking car. That night, I lay in bed again, writing in my notebook. I already had plans for Chapter 2, but I knew I needed one more move to really drive the point home. Just before I drifted off, I checked my phone. 2 new alerts. One from the bank, one from the car dealer. The text read, "Vehicle registration pending. Payment confirmed." I frowned. I hadn't done that. I sat up and read again. The charge was $1,300. I jumped out of bed and ran to my laptop. A new transaction at the DMV, $1,300. My heart raced. Who paid that? And why was it still on my card? I scrolled down to the transaction details, and then I saw it. The card they used was. The next morning, I jolted awake when my phone buzzed again. Heart pounding, I fumbled for it in the dark. The alert read, "Transaction of $1,300 at State DMV. Approved." My breath caught in my throat. I bolted upright. Who on earth would pay my registration fee without telling me? I dashed to my desk lamp and booted up my laptop. My parents were still asleep down the hall. I clicked into my banking app and stared at the new line. $1,300, State DMV, June 29th. I pressed my hand to my chest. They had already paid for the car registration. They clearly intended to keep using my card without asking. My mind raced. I had to act fast before they drained every last cent of my credit. I thought about the traps I set last night. They'd only learned a little lesson. This time I needed something bigger, something that would really make them think twice. I grabbed my notebook and sketched out my plan while I ate a quick bowl of cereal. I would freeze the car remotely using its smart system, so they couldn't drive it. Then I would file a false lost title report at the DMV under my name. That would lock the registration and force them to come to me to sort it out. I wrote down every step. Log into the car's app, change the access code, submit the report, and send them a copy. Once I left for work, I ducked into the garage. The bike stood quietly beside the car, its bells still playing that silly tune when pressed. I opened my phone's car control app. My finger hovered over the lockdown button, which would immobilize engine start. I hesitated a moment, thinking of my parents' faces. Then I tapped. A confirmation popped up, vehicle locked. I smiled. They would be in for a surprise when they tried to leave for work. Next, I logged into the DMV website. Using my credentials, I filed a lost title report for the new car. I filled in every detail: VIN number, make, model, purchase date. At the end, the site charged a $25 processing fee, which I happily paid for my tiny remaining balance. A confirmation email arrived instantly, title flagged. Transfer disabled until further notice. I printed the PDF and slipped it into an envelope with a short note. Your car registration is on hold. See me to sort it out. I drove to the post office and mailed it to my parents' home address with signature confirmation. By the time I returned home, the car app notified me that someone had tried to start the engine twice. The instant alerts made me chuckle. I settled in for the workday, confident that my plan was unfolding. Later that afternoon, my mom called me in a panic. "Jessica, where is the car key?" she asked. Her voice trembled. "I can't lock the house because I don't have the key." I feigned confusion. "Key? I thought Dad left it on the kitchen counter." She sighed. "It was there, but now it's gone. And why can't I open the car door?" I pretended to struggle. "Are you sure you have the right key fob? Maybe the battery died." She muttered and hung up. I heard Dad's voice, shouting in the background before the line went dead. I sat back and smiled. They were already digging for answers and blaming each other. This was exactly the chaos I wanted. That evening, I walked past the garage as Dad stormed out with a flashlight, hunting for clues. Mom stood on the porch, clutching the envelope I mailed. She opened it with trembling hands and read the note. "Your car registration is on hold. See me to sort it out." Dad flicked on the garage light and tried the handle. Nothing. He yanked at the trunk. Nothing. He looked into the garage and saw the bike's bell, silent now. He shook his head, confused. Mom called out. Robber called Jessica. Dad's face went red. He dialed my number and held the phone away from his ear. "Answer," he hissed. I let it ring 3 times and then picked up. "Hey, how's it going?" Dad spat. "This is not funny, Jess. Why are you doing this?" I sighed sweetly. "I just want you to respect my credit. It's called teaching a lesson." Dad growled and hung up. Mom retreated into the house, still clutching the envelope. I closed my eyes and let the tension wash over me. Everything was going according to plan. They were confused and angry, and best of all, they had no idea how far I was willing to go. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the next move. But before I could drift off, I saw a news alert on my phone. Local towing company cracks down on unpaid vehicle holds. Impounded cars towed at owner's expense. My heart skipped. I tapped the link and read, "Tow fees start at $800 per day. The DMV hold could get my parents' new car towed if they didn't clear it fast." My breath caught in my throat. They could lose the car entirely. The next morning, I woke to a loud rumble outside my window. My heart pounded. I looked out and saw a big tow truck pulling into the driveway. My parents' new car, the dark blue sedan, was already hooked to the tow arm. The driver was strapping it down. My stomach churned with excitement and a little guilt. I raced downstairs and peeked out the front door. My mother, Linda, stood on the porch, hands trembling. My father, Robert, was shouting at the tow truck driver. "You can't take our car," he yelled. The driver shrugged. The DMV flagged it. They hold title now. I was hired to impound. He climbed into his seat and started to crank the truck. The car's wheels began to turn. I felt my cheeks flush. This was bigger than I had planned. I tipped my head and watched the sedan roll forward. The sound of metal on metal echoed in my ears. My mother rushed forward, tears in her eyes. "Jessica," she screamed. "Stop this. Please." I stayed inside, watching through the window. My father pulled at his hair and kicked the brick step. He shouted into his phone. I guessed he was calling a lawyer or maybe the DMV. But in less than a minute, the tow truck driver closed his door and drove off, carrying their car away. Mom sank onto the step, cradling her head in her hands. Dad stared after the truck, his face ashen. I closed the curtains and turned away. Part of me felt a pang of regret. They looked so broken, but another part felt triumphant. They would never forget this lesson. All that day, I heard them pacing in the house. I heard my mother sobbing softly. I heard my father's low mutters of anger. After work, I slowed my steps on the front porch. I wanted them to see me and realize who was behind this. I fiddled with the latch on the gate, then let it click loudly. They looked up. "Jessica," Dad said, his voice tight. "Can we talk?" I nodded and walked to the driveway. My mother dried her tears with the back of her hand. I held my arms out. "I'm here." They both stood stiffly. My father unfolded his arms. "This went too far," he said. "We can't have our car taken away. We need to fix this. Want to talk about how you used my credit card without asking." I replied softly. Linda's shoulders slumped. "We're sorry, honey. We really are." Dad nodded. "We didn't mean for it to go this far." I folded my arms. "You had the money to pay us back. You chose not to." Mom's voice shook. "We thought you would laugh it off if we told you. We were wrong." I swallowed and looked up at the sky. The sun was setting behind the trees. I felt tears burn in my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Fine," I said. "If you want your car back, you need to fix the registration hold. Then call the tow company and get it out of impound." Dad held out his phone. "We have $5 left on that card. Will you let us use it to pay the tow fees? It's $900 for one day." His voice broke on the last word. I pressed my lips together. The number stung, but I nodded. "One day only, and you need to pay it back right away." Mom reached out and squeezed my hand. "Thank you." I let go and stepped back. "I'll send you the details." They went inside, heads bowed. I stood in the driveway alone, the taste of victory bitter on my tongue. That evening, I watched the news on TV. A story came on about a man who found his car towed because of a DMV error. He lost it for 3 days and paid double fees. I felt a chill. What if my parents had to pay even more? My plan worked, but it might have hurt them more than I wanted. I checked my phone. No messages from Dad or Mom yet. I opened my banking app and saw the balance. Still $5. They hadn't used it yet. I wondered if they were too ashamed to ask me. Later, as I was brushing my teeth, I heard my mother's voice outside my bedroom door. "Jessica." I opened the door. She held a small envelope. "We paid $900. We cleared the hold and got the car out of impound." I raised my eyebrows. "Already?" She nodded. "We learned our lesson." I took the envelope and peeked inside. It contained a receipt from the tow company. The fee was indeed $900. I slipped it into my pocket. "Okay," I said quietly. Mom looked at me with hopeful eyes. "Are we good now?" I thought of the humiliation they felt that morning, the worry, the rush to pay. Part of me wanted more revenge, but another part remembered the lesson I wanted them to learn. Respect and kindness go both ways. I softened. "We're good," I said. Mom exhaled relief and hugged me. I hugged her back, glad the extremes were over, but I knew better than to believe it was truly finished. There was still one more surprise I had planned, a small final twist that would teach them to always ask before taking. That night, I tiptoed into the garage. The electric bike leaned against the wall. Its frame still felt cold from the morning air. I pulled out a marker and wrote 3 words on the tire, "Try me." Then I hid the marker under the workbench. I climbed the stairs back into the house. As I walked down the dark hallway, I heard a faint beep from the bike bell. It chimed once, then paused. I froze. A soft, recorded voice echoed through the garage. "Nice try again." My lips curved into a smile. My heart pounded. I had a feeling they would find their car and leave me alone. But the bike was still ready for one more lesson. I laughed quietly and slipped into bed. Just as I closed my eyes, my phone lit up, a text from an unknown number. I tapped it open. The message read, "We found your mother's lost purse on the bike seat. It has your credit card. We'll return it if you pay $5,000 to shipping." My jaw dropped. Someone was holding my card hostage. I sat bolt upright, heart pounding. They were running a scam, and they had my card. I scrambled for my laptop, but as I reached for it, the lights flickered and then went out entirely. The whole house was plunged into darkness. I heard a loud crash from downstairs, as if something heavy fell. My pulse raced. The final extreme event had begun. The darkness swallowed me. My breath came in quick gasps as I stared at the black ceiling. Everything was silent for a moment. Then a low rumble came from downstairs. My heart pounded. I slid off the bed and crept to my door. My bare feet felt cold on the wood floor. I pushed the door open an inch and peered into the hallway. Not a light. Not a sound except the soft hum of the fridge far away. The crash had come from the living room. I tiptoed down the stairs, one step at a time. My hand brushed the wall. I counted each step in my head. When I reached the bottom, I saw the outline of Mom's favorite vase broken on the floor. Shards lay like white stars on the dark rug. My lips trembled. Who was in the house? Was it the scammer? I felt a cold knot in my stomach. I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. Memories of the last few days raced through my mind. The car impound, the tow fees, the DMV hold, the bike bell jokes, the tire message, and finally the text about my mother's purse and my credit card held hostage. My chest tightened. I had hidden the credit card inside my sock drawer, but someone evidently knew where to find the bike and the purse. They must have come in through the unlocked garage door. I had been too proud to change the code after last night's prank. I crept to the kitchen. The counters were dark, but a faint moonlight through the window lit the sink. A coffee mug lay on its side. I froze. Then I heard my mother's voice, shaky and low. "Robert? Is that you?" she whispered. I hurried into the living room. There, under the window, stood my parents together. My mother clutched her purse to her chest. My father held a flashlight, its beam quivering. Their faces were pale. Behind them, the broken vase lay on the rug. A chair was tipped over. "Who's there?" Dad called. Silence. Then a soft shuffle from the kitchen. I grabbed a wooden spoon off the counter as a makeshift weapon. My parents saw me, and their eyes widened. "Jess!" Mom gasped. "Are you okay?" I nodded, gripping the spoon tight. My legs felt unsteady, but I knew I had to be brave. "Mom, Dad, stay here," I said in a hush. "I'll check." They stared at me, then backed away slowly. I walked to the kitchen doorway, spoon raised. The kitchen was empty except for a fallen broom. The back door stood, slightly ajar. I crept closer and looked out. The moonlit driveway was empty. The garage door was closed, but not locked. Footprints in the dirt led away into the yard. My heart thudded. Whoever came had already left. But they had taken Mom's purse and my credit card, if the text was real. I sank to the floor, spoon clattering. Tears stung my eyes. I looked at the broken vase and thought about the lesson I wanted to teach. I had set out to show my parents respect, but now someone else had shown me how it felt to have things taken without asking. Mom joined me on the floor. She wrapped her arms around me. Dad knelt beside us, flashlight in hand. "I'm so sorry," Dad said quietly. "This is all my fault. I should have locked the door." I leaned against my mother's shoulder and let the tears flow. I felt small and scared. I had never felt fear like this in my own home. After a long moment, I wiped my eyes and stood up. "I need light," I said. Mom pressed the flashlight to my hand. I clicked it on. The beam scanned the room. Dad found the breaker box and flipped the switch. Lights flickered on. The living room looked normal again, except for the broken vase and the tipped chair. I helped Dad pick up the larger pieces of the vase. Mom gathered the shards in a newspaper and carried them to the trash. We moved slowly, our bodies stiff. The house felt strange, like it didn't belong to us anymore. When everything was tidy, we sat on the couch. I hugged the flashlight. Dad sat on one end, Mom on the other. I was in the middle. My hand shook. "I got a text," I said softly. "Someone says they have Mom's purse and my credit card. They want $5,000 to return it." Dad's face turned red. "What? That's a scam." "It might be real," I said. "I don't know. They said they found the purse on the bike seat." Mom put her hand on mine. "My purse was on the bike when I took it to work," she said. "I must have left it there by accident." I closed my eyes. "We have to call the police," I said, "and the bank. We need to cancel my card." Dad got up and grabbed his phone. Mom dialed 911. I sat back and inhaled the bright living room light. My heartbeat slowed. I felt a little safer. We gave the police the house address and the story. We called the bank and froze my card. The bank promised to investigate the scam. Finally, the dispatcher said an officer would be here soon. My parents and I sat together on the couch, holding hands. I felt shaky but safe. Mom whispered, "I'm sorry we put you through all this." I smiled weakly. "No, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't change the garage code." We all chuckled quietly. It felt good to laugh. The fear was still there, but it was less sharp. I looked at my parents. They looked tired and worried, but they were together, and that mattered. The police arrived in 10 minutes. An officer checked the broken vase, the open back door, and the footprints. He took our statements and told us to lock the doors and windows. He said they would look for the scammer and call us if they found anything. He gave us a card and some advice on home security. After he left, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. We sat in silence for a while. Then Dad stood and went into the garage. Mom and I followed. In the garage, he flipped on the light. The bike was still there, leaning against the wall. I noticed my marker hidden under the bench. Dad picked it up. "What's this?" he asked, reading the words on the tire. "Try me." I stepped forward. "That was my last message," I said. I wanted to make one final point about asking before taking. Dad looked at me and then at the bike. He smiled softly. "You got our attention," he said. I felt a small glow of pride. The plan had been to teach my parents respect. But I had also taught myself a lesson about trust and security. I realized that revenge could be dangerous if you didn't think it through. I was lucky nothing worse happened. Mom touched the bike's handle. "I think it's time we fix things for real," she said. "Let's sell this bike and pay Jessica back the full amount. And I'm going to replace that vase." Dad hugged me. "And we promised to always ask first." I nodded. "Deal." We walked back into the house together. The broken vase was gone from the living room, replaced by a small, simple bouquet of daisies on the table. Mom smiled and handed me a small box. Inside was a gift card for $500 to my favorite coffee shop. A little makeup gift, she said, for all you do. I hugged her. Thank you. We sat around the table with warm light all around. I felt a sense of peace. My parents had learned to respect me, and I had learned to protect myself. The suspense and fear of the night before felt like a distant echo. We talked quietly about what happened and what we would do next. Just as I was about to pour myself a cup of tea, my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw a new text message. The sender was the same unknown number. The message read, "Nice try. We have more of your things. We'll be in touch." My heart stopped. I stared at the screen. My parents saw my face go pale. "What is it?" Mom asked. I hesitated. My fingers hovered over the phone. The room was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Then, from the garage, I heard another crash, louder this time, as if something heavy fell against the door. My breath caught. I looked at my parents. Mom's eyes widened. Dad reached for the shotgun that sat by the door. I gripped the phone tight. The final twist had arrived. The real revenge game was only just beginning.